we were working under somebody else until you was like, man, please. Once you were
Yeah.
like, we could do this on our own. Her understanding that early on and being able to do it on her own and have her own platform and own her name and do those things, and us being able to do the same thing. I love seeing all of it. You got some
Yeah.
people in the space that have sat down with her and tried to tell her like you need to go back to the bottom because you skipped some steps, kind of thing. And I feel like I would never. I love to see them thrive, but I know that I also like what I do and I like how I do it. And I think sometimes it's considered vintage.
Ah, we are. We're old. We're old. Well, listen, I got to go because my wife is gone. She's going out for the day to take care of some stuff, and I got to go feed these kids.
Okay,
So
yeah.
let
Oh
me
yeah,
go.
look, I'm talking your ear off. Well, did
No,
you
no, yeah.
were we
No,
gonna read the super chats?
yeah, yeah, no, we can read the super chats. I told you not to do that when we only got like 3 super chats. And here we go. He'll do it again. All right, we got 5 super chats. Laura, thank you for the super sticker. We do really appreciate it. We seriously. Lizzie Bennett, thank you for the $5 saying that. So can we discuss TYT being too dense to see MTV's pivot? She's an opportunist positioning herself for her higher role. Yeah, like
Good afternoon. 5 o'clock. It's dark here. Welcome to the Moronocene. I am Sandy Shellis, and this is Environmental Coffee House. We are live on This Space TV and Environmental Coffee House, and it's great to be here. So today, I don't know what's going on. It just said one view on my channel. Something going wrong? It's good to see you, though. Here, are we live? Okay, we're live. You know, you never know what's happening with setting these things up because I can set it up at the last minute because it's not my platform. Okay, so today the topic is chronic pain. The topic is Trump anxiety disorder. The topic is mental health. The topic is living in the Moronocene and surviving it. When you are in chronic pain, a lot of us suffer from chronic pain. And I see a lot of you are in the audience there. Hello, hello. I don't see anybody in my chat yet. I don't know. Are you in my chat yet? You guys, or is something going wrong? You're in this space. It doesn't matter, I guess. Either way, fine, fine. So I was going to do a bit of a different show today, but I'm not ready. And I'm hoping I'll be ready to do it tomorrow night. And that has to do with this whole Epstein situation. Okay. But it has to do with my personal experience and the bigger picture. But today we'll talk about the Moronocene because honestly, this is where we're living. I mean, we are so living in it. It's like, I mean, really, let's talk about chronic pain in the Trump era, which is what we're living in, right? And it didn't magically get worse on its own. Now, a lot of you suffer. I suffer every single day. It's 24 years. Okay. But it got worse now because this political climate it's engineering the perfect storm for human suffering. And, you know, you can't run a country on fear and chaos and whiplash policy swings, every day without people feeling it in their bodies. And chronic pain doesn't care about slogans. It responds to stress and uncertainty and instability. And that's exactly what, and I'll call him Trump tonight, be professional. I could call him Orange Turd, injected into the national bloodstream. So first, it's nonstop chaos. It's just nonstop, right? Every week, a new crisis, a new rights rollback, a new attack on healthcare. You can't live in the fight or flight. You can't live in it for years without your nervous system revolting. Stress hormones climb, inflammation spikes, and pain patients, we get crushed under the weight of it, as do non-pain patients, I'm sure. Then there's healthcare. He didn't just threaten, he didn't just threaten the Affordable Care Act. He turned it into a political punching bag. Every attempt to gut coverage sent millions of people with chronic conditions basically into panic mode. So when you're terrified your insurance could vanish depending on a tweet or a troth social, what does he call it? Troth social, whatever, on his stupid platform. But your pain gets worse. And that's not politics, that's biology. Let's not forget the opioid crackdown. So instead of targeting the pharmaceutical giants who caused the crisis, which has been done somewhat, but the system punished, and this was back in the first era. The system punished the people actually living with pain, like me, and legitimate patients like me. We were cut off, we were tapered, we were humiliated, we were treated like criminals for needing relief. I'll never forget it. But that wasn't policy. It was cruelty, like everything else, dressed up as law and order. And mental health, slashed. Social supports, attacked. Environmental protections, roll back so fossil fuel donors could make another dollar while pollution creeps deeper into our lungs and our bloodstreams. You think that doesn't affect pain? You ask any doctor. Dirtier air, higher stress, sicker bodies. And the divisiveness, the weaponized hate, ripped apart families, communities, and social safety nets. Chronic pain thrives in isolation. And Trumpism, it fed isolation like it was a campaign promise. So yes, chronic pain got worse, and it's getting worse because everything that keeps the body stable, calm, safety, healthcare, community, clean air is being undermined. That's the cost of governing by chaos every single day. This is the physical toll of a movement that treats empathy like weakness and science like an enemy. Chronic pain didn't just rise in this Trump era. It was the predictable outcome of a political project built on stress, fear, and neglect. So if you attack stability, you attack the body, and millions of people are paying the price every single day. I happen to have a chronic pain situation for me that, and there's others that I know in this chat that suffer. Okay. And we feel like, when you're suffering or you're feeling certain things, and it's like you're living in this moronic time. If the Anthropocene is defined by humans reshaping the planet, the Moronocene is defined by humans willfully ignoring everything we know about it. And honestly, it's hard not to feel like we're living in it. We're in an era where science is like, it's screaming. The data it's flashing red, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Yet the loudest political voices are the ones proudly rejecting reality. climate breakdown accelerates, ecosystems collapse, storms get biblical. Just watch Volcaholic, Twitter, and she's on X. Watch what she posts. I talk about her all the time. And a chunk of our leadership, they act like the biggest threat is a pronoun or a library book. So that's the Moronocene. It's an epoch where the tools to save ourselves, they exist. But the people in charge, they choose stupidity because it's politically profitable. That's it. The Moronocene. And it's an age of weaponized ignorance. Really, it is. Where disinformation outpaces truth. Where anti-science rhetoric becomes a badge of loyalty. And where democracy itself is treated like an optional accessory. When leaders deny climate change, gut environmental protections and sneer at expertise. They're not just being foolish, they're pulling the entire species into the ditch with them. You see what's going on. You see what RFK Jr. is doing to the CDC, Health and Human Services. Dr. Oz. Oh, please. So yes, in a somewhat like symbolic sense, we're living in the Moronocene. It's an age where climate crisis is accelerating, not because we lack them again, but because the government in all over the world, governments are stupid. Even with COP30, which was represented by how many people from the fossil fuel lobbies all over the world? I haven't seen the postmortem on that yet by other climate scientists and friends on different channels. I will. And I'll probably do my own postmortem, I'm sure. But I do want to talk. I have a couple of things to talk about. I have a couple of articles. I have one that is actually by a thing called Financial Review. Trump anxiety disorder is real, says this particular shrink. And then there's another article, how chronic pain can affect your mental health. And while I'm not going to just verbatim read them, I want to talk about what's in them. And I think for the first thing I want to talk about, I want to talk about, well, that it's not a mystery, like I said. Chronic pain and anxiety, they've gotten really worse, right? And it's not just the vibes, because so many people I've talked to are suffering. And it's not just because we have problems. Although I have an autoimmune, I've had a 3 back surgeries, a neck surgery. I have problems, but I fake it pretty well when I do these. I'm pretty good at it. I'm really good at it. But think about it this way. Chronic stress that we're living through in so many ways, it's like gasoline thrown on our pain. And when your body is, again, that fight or flight thing, it's really a rolling constitutional crisis all the time. Our inflammation in our bodies, it spikes. No matter if I eat an anti-inflammatory diet or what I do, it spikes. And I've had problems, I'd say, since April, me. Others I know also have had lots of things going on. And so, these stress hormones that are in us, they don't just mess with our mood, they really amplify our pain. And uncertainty is also bringing trauma. It's bringing trauma because we're worried about the midterm chaos. We're worried about the authoritarian power grab we're witnessing in the United States, even the UK. The UK isn't doing so wonderfully either. And then there's the open assaults on rights, what we see ICE doing. It's like a background of dread. This is not like Kimberly Guilfoyle. The best is yet to come. When? For who? The 1% billionaires? The ones that are building bunkers? Like Zuckerberg in Hawaii? Much to the chagrin of the people that live there because they see how pathetic it is? God, we're not, we're not. We're in an era of being hypervigilant, I'd say. And the communities that take the biggest hit, really, immigrants. We're seeing it every day. And Midas Touch does a great job when they do their shows highlighting some of the most horrible videos that they get of the abuse that people are taking at the hands of these undertrained, non-professional, masked men that really have absolutely no idea what they're really doing, except for being allowed to be angry and take their anger out on a population that really didn't ask for it. It's supposed to be criminals. In Buffalo today, I think it was today or yesterday, ICE went to a Mexican restaurant where these people have worked for years. Now, I don't know of their status. Of course, they're saying they're illegal, but it's in my city where, I don't live there now, but it's my city. And they arrested them. They work at a Mexican restaurant in the coolest part of town. They've been there for years. The community is up in arms over this. This is like, who thought it's like a nightmare? No, it's a nightmare. And so it's not just immigrants, it's LGBTQ. People are afraid to even go out. And then women, they're targeting us. We're going to talk tomorrow about the patriarchy and Epstein billionaires and abuse of women. But I'm kind of setting the stage for that. Then there's disabled people like me, like so many of you. We're always afraid, that something's going to happen or they'll take our livelihoods away. The only thing so many have is Social Security disability. So you have to live with a disability, with chronic pain, and you have to live worrying about the fact that you could lose your benefits. And it will be indiscriminate and randomly. And if you're a certain age, the elderly population, if you don't think some elderly people are worried now, they're worried because it feels like there's a culling going on in the healthcare. But so many people are targeted now by these policies and this rhetoric, and it's very heavy emotional load. And it's the kind of pressure, again, that doesn't stay in the mind. It comes to the body. And let me tell you, from my experience and from so many of you I'm seeing in the chat that I know in my chat, we're living with this nightmare. And it doesn't make it any better to be living in the Moronocene. It just doesn't. And then there's disinformation and the conflict. It's like conflict fatigue. It makes coping with all this shit just that much harder. You can't heal when every news cycle feels like another 5-alarm fire unless you turn it all off totally and just be an ostrich, which for so many of us is not possible, because if you hide, you could be ambushed. The 5-alarm fire. And people feel trapped, ignoring it. But like I said, that feels irresponsible, and watching it, which is exhausting us. And again, I'm going to say the healthcare anxieties are part of the pain loop because of the threats to the Affordable Care Act. Everything, mental health access, cutting all of the grants for these places. A friend of mine is a mental health worker. She is a social worker, and she works for an organization in another area of New York that is funded by federal grants by Medicaid. She doesn't know if she is going to have a job. She's still working. She suffers. She's suffering. They're not abstract things. I mean, when you have to worry that your health care is going to vanish because of an election, that's pretty screwed up. It's really screwed up. And our nervous systems, they don't settle. It's really serious. And there's things we have to do for ourselves. So while the political climate, it really doesn't cause our chronic pain or anxiety. I mean, I've had this for years, this pain. It started with a fall I took in I don't know, 2001, 2, I don't know when it was, but it's been a long time. Like I said, it's not the political climate, but it intensifies it all. And when your democracy, which is like what democracy now, feels unstable, we feel unstable. And the body, it records every second of that. We're getting sicker in the United States. And it's not just what Dr. Oz said and what RFK Jr. says because of what we eat. It's because of what we're living through, the Moronocene, as I call it. It's not just the Anthropocene. We are definitely in the Moronocene epoch. You know? Really, it is. And, well, some of the things we might know, we don't know, actually. We just heard that the cannabis, the legal cannabis is under attack. We don't know what they're going to do again. They did it on the opioid, the whole crisis. Yes, there's a crisis in this country. There is a drug crisis in this country. But these government officials go about everything all wrong. They illegally target Venezuelan civilians on fishing boats. They're doing things against the law. They're killing people without giving anybody any definitive proof of what they're doing. No permission from the Congress of the United States. That makes me hurt. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. But I'm a person that needs medication in various ways. And so I always worry that it's going to be us next. Already, when you go for surgery, the doctors are so threatened that so many of them won't give any pain medicine when you have surgery when you leave. Now, if you're in your 60s or 70s, what is the problem with giving someone pain medicine? They're not going to be addicted. It's insanity. But that's what's happening. That the suffering is real. And I'm sorry. You can hear from the president, don't take Tylenol. Don't take acetaminophen that he can't even fucking pronounce. And then, but what else is there? So that's something, that's going to happen, especially giving the cuts for Medicaid. I feel so bad for people that are on Medicaid and are going to lose it and are not able-bodied to go to work 80 hours a week, 2 or 3 different jobs. No. Deep cuts. He wants to cut Medicaid. He wants to cut substance use treatment funding. Okay. How is that? You want to cut in the big, beautiful bullshit bill. You're going to cut substance abuse funding, but you'd rather blow up boats instead of looking at the etiology of the drug use problem, but not chronic pain patients. The people that are using this to dull their emotional and psychic pain, the people that feel that there's a dead end in life, that are taking these things because getting high feels better than just, being alive or doing anything in life. And it's not brand new. It's not brand new at all. This was happening in the Gilded Age. It's been happening for a long time. Can you imagine taking away substance use treatment, funding? So that's one of the things. And the Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration, SAMHSA, which funds a lot of it, faces big cuts. I don't have the specific numbers in front of me. I did have, when I put together stuff, I have links. I always put them in after the show. So a lot of people and a lot of communities are really worried about these these treatment centers. It seems kind of obscene, actually. And I already talked about the medical cannabis. It's just crazy. They wanted Mitch McConnell. Most likely, this whole move to close a loophole in the cannabis program, the hemp program, is probably funded by the alcohol, Kentucky bourbon industry. That's a $26 billion industry, I believe. Quite a lot of money in it, quite a lot of jobs for farmers who don't have anything now because the Trump administration has sold them out in how many ways? Many, many ways. Let's just hope that the state legal programs will continue to operate like they do now. When I do use it, and I don't like to smoke anymore, and everybody knows I was a grower because it was legal. I've grown indica, sativa, beautiful stuff. I don't smoke anymore. I'm getting too old. I don't want to wreck my lungs. I will go to the clinic when I can afford. I have a cannabis card for the state, and I like the capsules because they are scientifically measured. They're done in a lab. That it's not just okay. You don't know what you're getting, or you don't know what you're getting when you're smoking, or eating, or making brownies. Where I like that. I really do. I like that. I mean, I want to make tinctures and things off of what I have. I just, never do because I'm the biggest procrastinator. So, again, the Moronocene. The Moronocene is where we are. It's really an era built on proud ignorance. It's when, political power, it's anchored in denying climate science, rejecting basic public health, treating experts as enemies, which is happening all the time now. You're not flirting with stupidity. You're institutionalizing stupidity. And anti-knowledge, it becomes a political identity. The Trump movement, it transformed willful misunderstanding into a badge of loyalty. And you see it all the time in these morons that have been elected in these different states. I don't even have to say the names. You know who they are, right? You know who they are. If the facts contradict the leader, they must be wrong. Who started that? Kellyanne Conway in the first Trump administration, when she talked about alternative facts. We were just shocked, right? And now, how many years later, and we're just used to all this idiocracy. The movie's real, right? It's like facts must be wrong if they don't agree with the orange turd. And that's textbook Moronocene behavior. You're elevating your feelings over evidence and grievance over reality, which is that guy's middle name, Grievance. And then all the catastrophic problems, they're met with like a juvenile thinking, rising seas, accelerating warming, and infrastructure collapse, democratic erosion. I said it before, all the slogans, blame shifting, magical thinking. Meanwhile, the world barrels towards climate tipping points that don't care about political tantrums. We've already passed 1.5 several times. CO2 is measured at boop, 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 keeps going up in the atmosphere. We haven't been this hot in warm in so long. We're losing. Iran is in a drought that is potentially going to affect millions of lives. But don't worry, Israel's cheering that on. War. That's not even anything I've touched upon on this. So it's like ridiculous. And the stakes are growing. And as the stakes are growing, the thinking is shrinking. And the lying and the liars with absolutely, I mean, you thought Bush and Cheney were bad. And then you look at this incompetent bitch, Bondi. She lies. She's been lying and protecting Epstein since she was in Florida. What's in it for her? What is in it for her? She embarrasses me that she is in the female species, actually. So the more complicated that our world is, as it becomes, the more this era is rewarding the simplest and dumbest explanations. That's the core of the Moronocene. It's a mismatch between the complexity of our crises of today and the childishness of our leadership. And it's not just dumb, it's dangerous. So if this Trump era doesn't just celebrate ignorance, it weaponizes it against the climate, against democratic norms, against science, against anyone who isn't part of the cult. Although we think the cult is shrinking, we hope, because of the price of beef and eggs, if that's what it takes for the simpletons. So the term fits. Stupidity with power becomes civilization level risk. So yeah, if this Moronocene is the age where humanity has the tools, again, to solve these existential crises, but chooses to ignore them because stupidity is politically convenient, then the Trump era isn't just part of it. The Trump era is the flagship chapter. Yeah, it is. Okay, so I want to talk about Trump anxiety disorder. I'm not going to pull this article up, but it is the shrink says it's real. And I'll just read a little bit from it, and then we're going to talk about mental health and what we could do to survive the Moronocene. In the last few months, and I don't talk about it much because, like I said, I'm a great actress on here. I have been vacillating, not depression. I don't know if it's depression or if it's just sadness mixed with the pain and a lot of anxiety. So it starts out by 11:30. This friend texted me, "I'm feeling decidedly unsettled tonight." Well, what's bothering you? I inquired. Trump. He's not alone. Talking to my colleagues in the mental health profession, they are all experiencing an increase in clients who want to talk about Trump. Curiously, from both sides. It's not surprising that anti-Trumpers are more vociferous in expressing their apprehensions. The Donald, as people perceive the Donalds as a greater threat to world peace than either Vladimir Putin or Xi Jinping. Their many concerns have congealed into a condition. In 2017, a group of eminent American psychiatrists and mental health experts wrote a book, The Dangerous Case of Donald Trump. One chapter by psychologist Jennifer Panning described the newly observed Trump anxiety disorder. I have it, and I have Trump derangement syndrome. I have them all. The symptoms of TAD, which is not formally recognized as a diagnostic label, includes loss of control and helplessness, increased worry, muscle tension, and obsessive preoccupation with the news, all stirred up by Donald J. Trump. I've worked on that very hard. I'm not watching the podcasts every day. I'm not watching all of that every day. I'm not. I will glance, I will look at the day's clusterfuck headlines and then move on. And I would prefer to watch Paul Beckwith. I mean, or somebody that's talking the science, which is just as awful and scary, but just not in the way that I can handle that. I've learned how to handle the climate crisis and how to deal with that. We've had a lot of support. And on our channel, we bring in people that do support. We have therapist Carolyn Baker. I've shared with you the Good Grief Network, but this whole cognitive dissonance rife, this Trump stuff, people are Trump junkies. And during this author says during the first administration, this person would anxiously reach for the phone to see what he'd done now and how many millions of Americans are doing this. The author says, I thought I kicked this bad habit during the sleepy Biden years, but I'm at it again. I am not. I get up in the morning, I look at the temperature right now to know what if I need wood in the stove and whatever. I'm not looking at that right away. I can't. It hurts. It's killing me. In an unintended display of bipartisanship, anxieties have also risen for MAGA supporters, but they're of a slightly different nature. I suspect cognitive dissonance is rife among Trump followers. They agree with what he's doing, but not how he is doing. They support his agenda, but fear being isolated by friends and family with opposing views for good reason, because you're fucking racist. Sorry, that's not what the author's writing. I'm editorializing. To expound, shortly after his first election, a study found that 40% of respondents can no longer have open and honest conversation with some friends or family about Trump. God knows that figure is in the early weeks of Trump too, but I venture it's not lower. And this was written in March, and now it's November. It's so much worse. It is so much worse. So it's cognitive dissonance, totally. And one explanation for this extraordinary psychological landscape posits that the president is unconsciously viewed as a parental figure. Remember when they were calling him daddy? Oh my God, calling him daddy. Could you just want to make you puke? In Donald, we have a papa who lies and cheats and bullies, this author says. Not surprisingly, U.S. psychotherapist Elizabeth Lamott observes that the Trump anxiety disorder sufferers display the same symptoms as clients raised by a parent with a personality disorder. Imagine that. So regardless of its cause, what can be done to manage Trump anxiety disorder? Okay. The ancient Chinese military strategist and philosopher Sun Tzu wrote, if you know the enemy, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. The truth is, for most of us, Trump's actions will have little or no direct consequence. That's not true anymore. And we're seeing it have direct consequences on people we know, people we love, people we care about, brown and black people. You hear Antonio on my channel talk about some of the fear he has now that they're in his state just because he's a black man. There's something about gaining insight into Trump's modus operandi that automatically deflates it a bit. I had such a flash recently, oscillating between my fear that he really can play three-dimensional chess and the opposite concern that he's just hopelessly all over the shop. I watched an interview with Michael Wolff, a journalist who has written 4 books on Trump, and I'm going to go on a side with that Michael Wolff. Michael Wolff, I don't like Michael Wolff. He might have all that Epstein shit, but you know what? Michael Wolff's been holding on to this. And to what end? How much more abuse can women, these underage girls, not women, underage girls take? And not at the hands of Epstein, but could be at the hands of many other billionaires in that class. They have no scruples. But Wolff cuts through the confusing clutter to expose the critical point. That's Trump starred in a reality TV show for 14 years, and there he learned that the optimum method to keep an audience engaged was by generating conflict. And I say it's Mark Burnett's fault that he's president because Mark Burnett offered him that show. And that's where people really got to see Donald Trump and think that it was real. That this failed, bankrupt, loser, narcissist piece of shit was real. And that's what he continues to do as president. This understanding somehow defanged Trump for me. I know what he's up to, so he doesn't trigger me so easily. Another way to feel calmer is to take the long view. Yes, we are in a major crisis now, but we've been here before and got through those times intact. Oh, yeah? But those times, dude, person that wrote this article, we weren't in an extinction level climate crisis. 100 years ago, the world suffered a major depression with massive unemployment. During the 50s, McCarthy and his anti-communist crusade spread fear and paranoia through the U.S., which is happening now. A decade later, divided opinions about the Vietnam War sparked mass violent protests. So when was America great? You tell me, when was America great? Let's not forget the terrorist attacks of September 11th, 2001, and the hyper angst they generated. But yet he has MBS and the Saudi Arabian guy, which we're going to do millions of dollars of business with to sell them planes, military planes. Why? So they can fly into another building? And I don't hate the Muslim people. It's the leaders I don't like. The controversial historian Niall Ferguson argues that our current troubles are just history happening. Maybe he's right. We just need to stop catastrophizing and take a chill pill. The truth is that for most of us, Trump's actions, see, he says this again. I don't believe this, but I'm reading it and I'm saying what I don't agree with. Trump's actions will have little or no direct consequence. Bullshit. I just outlined in the whole front of the show stuff I put together why it is going to have direct consequence. So this person is a little bit privileged, I think, that's writing this article. Okay, my 8 spare fingers are crossed as I type this. Of course, it's hard to stay cool when confronted with the ongoing barrage of reportage predicting, among other things, the imminent outbreak of World War III. But understand that when feeling scared, we're hardwired to look out for further signs of danger. It's survival mechanism bestowed by evolution. The result, we get addicted to the bad news cycle, which we are. A lot of my friends are. They send me stuff every day on this. Many experts recommend a healthy media diet by redirecting our attention to positive news stories, limiting our time doom scrolling through social media feeds, and switching off our device for short periods. That could calm you down a bit. So that was Trump Anxiety Disorder is Real by Peter Quarry, who I think Peter is, if I look, I don't know who Peter Quarry is, but I think Peter Quarry is a little bit maybe a little bit privileged. So I wanted then to go into how this pain and how the angst and anxiety and all that is affecting mental health, because it can, and it could be all time consuming. And you know, the last month or 2, or maybe even 3 or 4 for me, just feeling and fighting it has been time consuming. I had a friend here, Katie, for 4 days, and I feel like all I did was complain about how much I hurt. My bones hurt, but that's a function of Sjogren's disease, I believe, and osteoarthritis. But I had gone off a medication because this is another thing. I had a medication I was taking, and I really wanted to see if I could go without it because, see, maybe it really doesn't work and I don't need it. Plus, the least amount of stuff you take, the better. If there's a collapse and you can't get your medication, you better know how you're going to be without it. And that's true. So I got off it. 6 months I was off it, called Plaquenil, hydrochloroquine, the stuff they thought cured COVID, which doesn't. And I couldn't get that again back when COVID happened. And there were that was the big thing. And they were stockpiling that medicine, and I couldn't get my medicine for my legitimate Sjogren's disease needs. Yeah, it doesn't work for that. It's a very mild anti-inflammatory. It's not like heavy. It doesn't suppress my immune system to the point where if I go out, I'll get sick, but it does suppress my immune system to a degree. So I went back on it, talked to my rheumatologist, went back on it, and it could take 6 months to feel the full effect, but it's now a month and a half, 2 months, and I'm starting to feel a little better. But guys, if I tell you, I didn't want to complain all the time. The suffering that I did and just putting shows together and then losing the channel. I'm not a victim at all, but it was difficult. It still is. It still is. When I do a show, there's a lot of work I put into it. And then after the show, I feel a lot of relief, and then it starts all over again, So mental health. So people with chronic conditions are more likely to develop symptoms of depression than those who are not chronically ill. I think we know that. And people who experience depression are at an increased risk for developing certain chronic illnesses compared to those who are not. So although some people with chronic pain may veer away from treating mental health conditions because they feel it might take their attention away from pain management, the reality is that the opposite is true. And I won't take an antidepressive because I don't feel that that's what I particularly need, but I will never tell someone else not to use something that will make them feel better and be able to cope. I will not do that. I might have a degree in psychology. It's only an undergrad. I am not a therapist. If you're suffering from depressive symptoms, anxiety, or mood disorders, treating them with medications such as antidepressants, psychotherapy, called talk therapy, or both may help improve the physical symptoms of chronic illness or reduce risk of future problems. And by the way, I will be having a guest very soon who is a clinical psychologist who specializes in climate anxiety. That's a new field opening up because so many of us are having anxiety issues dealing with the fact that we are seeing by the science what is happening in front of our eyes. And they are studying and they are learning how to help us. And I will be having this person on as a guest. Anxiety is common in most people with chronic conditions, particularly as they deal with the unknowns of what might happen as a result of their disease. This can lead to associated conditions as well, like sleep issues, including insomnia, as well as oversleeping, which I never do, but I have 7 kids. I can't oversleep. I can't even chronically sleep. I can't even get to sleep. But some of these have been associated with lower health related quality of life with people in chronic pain. So anyone dealing with chronic illness of any kind can really come up against challenges. Really, a lot of them, particularly when there is no cure or there's uncertainty in the progression of the illness, said Susan Gray. She's a pain psychologist with integrative I got to move this over so I could see it. With integrative psychology in Arlington, Massachusetts, and an avid instructor of psychology at the Harvard Medical School. Harvard, where Larry Summers is leaving now. Another one of Epstein's friends. You can't get away from it. Members of my chronic pain team, which is actually, I get this email, my chronic pain. They often talk about the effects of chronic pain on their mental health. Today, I've been tired. I've been, in pain, or I'm depressed or whatever. But you have to understand the link between chronic pain and your mind. There's several reasons why having a health condition may put people at risk. And you see how I'm taking this and I'm mixing it with the political atmosphere of living through the Moronocene and the Anthropocene, because it's all related. So you might feel, in America, you might feel isolated because spending long time periods of time at a doctor's office, you're not as mobile as you used to be. In addition, you may spend excessive amounts of time worrying about your condition. You may suffer inflammation in the long term because of the stress. And that's a big thing, stress and inflammation. And I know I suffer from inflammation. I don't know how many of you do. Perhaps I need to bring somebody also on to talk about this besides the psychological aspects with the therapist I'm going to have as a guest, but the things that this chronic anxiety and inflammation does to us to make what we think about with all of the Moronocene and Anthropocene situations worse. And a lot of people, lose sleep. Like last night. I mean, I use myself as an example. I did laugh past 10 last night. I went to bed. My neck and my body hurt. It just hurt so bad. I've had a headache for 3 days. And I'm not lifting. I lift one piece of firewood at a time. It just ebbs and flows. I could not sleep. Could not sleep. And I woke up. I sleep sometimes. I hurt so much. I dream about the pain. If I even fall asleep, I dream about the pain. I don't know how many of you understand this. I know that there are those of you out there that do. I know this. That's why I talk about the things I do, because I think we all share some of these issues. There's a big disabled community out there that follow. A lot of people. So, also, people feel stigmatized by their decreased quality of life, and they don't want to complain. Like I don't want to. And I've really apologized to my friend who came for complaining, because she was sitting in my living room. She was a captive audience, and I was going through a horrible flare and my whole body hurt, and I whined and complained. And that's why I don't want to be with anyone, and I don't want to live with anyone, and I don't want a relationship. Why? So I can whine and complain? I don't want to. Cats don't care. They listen. But they also bring a lot of joy. They're my therapy. So anyway, a lot of times people will not go. They won't go to talk to someone or find help, because they feel like they might get a negative response, and that's not cool. So unfortunately, sometimes there can still be a stigma around seeking help for mental health concerns, which is very sad. And you know what? With this administration, I bet it's even worse. Do you think any of those bitches at Mar-a-Lago, do you think that they would be talking about, "Oh, I went to see my therapist"? No, they're going to see they're going to see their plastic, whatever the hell they go to. To get their shots, to get their lips made bigger, or whatever they do. All I can tell you is I don't have anything. I just have good skin because I stay out of the sun and I don't smoke, so I don't look like a burlap bag. All right. And I'm not putting down anybody that smokes, because it's an addiction like everything else. Humanity is addicted to whatever. I used to call it the wheel of neurosis. When I was an undergrad, I had this wheel and I had all these different neurotic behaviors on it. And you spin the wheel, and where's it going to land this week? But the pain, it can lead to these things. So you have to recognize your symptoms. You may not realize you're dealing with depression or anxiety because the feelings come slowly over time, and you didn't notice how strong they became. Perhaps you got so accustomed to feeling like shit. Well, this person didn't write it like that. Being blue or stressed that you assumed this was just a way of life. sometimes I do feel that way. But recognizing what you may actually that you have a condition that requires a professional evaluation, it is important. So these are the feelings. There's sadness, feelings of worthlessness, which I don't feel, or hopelessness. That's one we could delve into. We don't have enough time. I've got 7 minutes left. Guilt, loss of interest in things or people. That's a problem for me. I lose interest. I don't want to talk to anybody on the phone ever. I'm allergic to the telephone. Changes in sleep, nutrition, energy levels, difficulty with concentration or cognition, agitated or slow movements, suicidal thoughts. I don't have those. I can't have those. I have 7 cats and a kid and you. And anxiety is nervousness or agitation, which I get, feeling a sense of upcoming doom. That's just part of being in the Moronocene. I'm sorry. It's very hard not to have that when you are in the Moronocene, coupled with the Anthropocene and everything that we know is happening. It's not easy to deal with that. And that's why there are these new therapists opening up to deal with those things. Heart palpitations, rapid breathing, sweating, trouble sleeping, gastrointestinal issues, trouble focusing. Sometimes that's a problem for me, focusing, but that's because I do a lot of different things. Taking care of this house is a good thing for me. It hurts, but it's a good thing for me. Rescuing kittens, loving kittens, their unconditional love. So you can consider lifestyle adjustments, and they'll talk about these things, physical recommendations for treating these things, maybe not just medication, but things like one of my friends goes to Tai Chi, which if I wasn't so far away from everything and hate going off my property, I might go to that. I used to go swimming. Well, anyway, there's the therapists. They work directly with people to identify the specific stressors. For instance, there's a family member who's bringing up some conflict or they're a Trump tard. Hey, I'm going to be, when they go low, we go low. They want to call us libtards or whatever the fuck they want to call us. Call them a name too. I know it doesn't make two wrongs don't make a right. But this person is conflict and the patient finds it very difficult to navigate setting boundaries with this person. Then there's working on concrete specific tools to address any troublesome interactions. A lot of people in this era are cutting off friends and family members because they're MAGA and because they are toxic and because they have seen, holy shit, this person was a racist like I have never seen before. Like that. Like Trump says, like you've never seen before. Yeah. But it's also essential that you really do stay up with these treatment regimens for your pain as you treat your mental health problems too. You have to. And these lifestyle modifications. One 2020 study found that for older adults with multiple chronic conditions, maintenance behaviors such as physical activity, walking, whatever you can do within the parameters of your problems, they're critical components of self-care. And some researchers found that even mild depression symptoms can be associated with poor self-care maintenance, emphasizing how important it is for people with chronic conditions to be screened for depression of any severity. The thing is, these days, it's really awful, but there's also this movement that you can't, like you go to the doctor, never say you're depressed. It stigmatizes you, and that's another problem, I think. In addition, make sure you have supportive team and people and friends like we are in the chat, like I have created on this channel for all of you, like the team, Nicholas and Antonio and Jim. And I miss Jennifer terribly, but our partner Jennifer has retired. And Alex says lots of music. Absolutely. supportive people and positive relationships with other people are assumed to contribute to physical and mental health, like the Climate Crisis Club on Saturdays that I listen to people around the world on X, which I don't like because I get addicted sometimes to it and have to deactivate. And but Saturdays, I get the opportunity to hear people from all over the world talking about what's going on where they live, like Uganda. Um, but it's relationships. It's sort of like finding the buffers to the stress. Now I've got 2 minutes, so I'm going to make it fast. So remember, your health condition may have an effect on every area of your life. Relationships, activities that you may enjoy, they may be impacted by a chronic illness and symptoms. Your sense of self can be affected by change in activities and relationships. So that in and of itself, that in and of itself can really validly lead to feelings of loss and worry. And there's a lot of risk factors for developing mental health issues. And, I'm here, my channel's here. Other people are online if you're not out with these things in your community to try to help with that and give you resources. Stressful life circumstances, a history of trauma, a lack of social support. I'm going to talk about trauma tomorrow. But diet, exercise, modify your risk factors. You try to do that. Try to do it. And they talk about mindfulness. Mindfulness is it's a practice. I've been told to, practice mindfulness in my life. That's good. So to put it all together, we live in the Moronocene. It is the Anthropocene. There are things to do. It's chronic pain sucks. A lot of us have it. We need to try to mitigate it, to try to survive what we are seeing. There's no other way. And if activism is the way also, by all means, get involved. You may not be able to fix the big picture, but the local picture. Yep. Yeah. Big part of what your club is about, the Climate Crisis Club, Alex, 24/7 climate support. And they have a chat there. I just wish it wasn't on X, but it is. Yes. Thank you, Looney. And thank you, Kim, for moderating. And I wonder if ice agents sleep with their masks on. Hi, Raza, in the UK. Yeah. Well, I just want you guys to understand you're not alone. And again, I'm not a therapist, but I was going to be one at one time. But I think about these issues all the time because I suffer, and I don't want to lie about it, but I don't want to whine about it. But particularly since April when I had peritonitis, and then I've had a bumpy ride, and I keep saying, "Oh gosh, when is it going to feel better?" And it's not quite yet, but it will. It will. I don't have a lot of, well, the audacity of hope. It's real. I'm not the biggest optimist in the long term, but I always feel like I could turn the corner and I could feel better, and so can you. I want to thank you for coming. I want to thank you, MIDI doctors. And I want to thank you. Hi, early love. And I'm sure we're going to do a postmortem on COP 30. Where are you? We'll do a postmortem on that on the show. And I'm sure I will bring in Antonio and and tomorrow there's also for Letterhack's birthday reminder, send your artwork for Letterhack's birthday art challenge of your art of a This Space host or producer Nick to the Letterhack at Gmail or Matt on Discord or another social media. And we have a Discord also, which is actually doing much better than the beginning because it took some bumps and grinds, and I'm really late. I don't know who's up after me. I'm so sorry. Thank you. And Reese, it's really great to see you here. It definitely is. So thank you, everybody. Kim, I love you. Dan and Groove Dragon, Snicks, and Alex, and everybody. Thank you. Thank you. I will see you tomorrow night. Tomorrow's going to be a heavy show. I'm going through history, the history of the patriarchy, the history of why the Epstein thing bothers me so much, personal experience, what I've seen, the sexual revolution. Oh, yeah. You don't want to miss tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern. T-Bone. Love you. Martin. All of you. Good night.